This is exciting. Tom Haley recently bought a bicycle and enjoys it and thinks the single speed was a good choice, though ideally that gear would be a little bigger because although it's easy to get going from a dead stop, it's difficult to go fast because you're just pedaling like crazy. Tom has published several essays and has previously busied himself as a grad student, writing teacher, copywriter, and book critic. He currently lives in Logan Square with his 2 sons and works as a creative director for a certain Chicago marketing agency called Jellyvision, which is how I know Tom, and I'm very excited for him to come up here. Tom Haley, everybody.
Thanks. Sound good?
Yes.
My name is Jan Anders, but people mispronounce it Jan Anders, or Jan Anders, or Jan Anders. So since I was a kid, I just go by Anderson. I'm 48, and my wife Cheryl and I live in this lovely suburb of Minneapolis with my daughter, Mary, who's leaving for college in 2 months. I build architectural models for a big firm downtown. I enjoy trimming my hedges and maintaining my home, and I don't think my life is less rich or less full than yours just because I like things to be predictable. I could tell you more, but even if I did, let's face it, I'll still only be this outline of a character, and you'll fill in the blanks with details that don't matter anyway. So let's move on. We're in my garage. I'm scrubbing drops of blood off the floor with a bleach and water solution. And the smell you're smelling is, I apologize, a cat's leg that got jammed up inside the car engine and apparently kind of cooked up there a little bit last night after I shut the car off. Here's how that happened. Yesterday I'm driving home from work. All this graduation party equipment like tent poles and decorations hanging out the back of my car. I'm rolling along my picturesque tree-lined street at a safe and legal speed about 7 o'clock, still light out, and one of the neighborhood stray cats rockets out from behind a garbage bin at the end of the driveway, and I hit it. Now, everyone says I'm a very nice person, and that's possibly true. But in terms of this cat accident, I made peace with it literally as it was happening. So, like as I'm seeing the body, or most of the body as it turns out, flopping to a rest in the mirror, my foot stays steady on the gas, I'm pondering the news story on NPR, and as far as the cat goes, I'm thinking, it's a shame, but this sort of thing happens, and life is for the living, and probably in some way this was meant to be, and it's better this way. Now, also in my mirror, I see this. The McDowell girls, frozen and in shock on the sidewalk where they were playing as I mowed down a cat right before their eyes. And come to think of it, it looked like their cat, not one of the neighborhood stray ones. And really, like, directly in front of them. They could not have had better front row seats to do that. So as I'm calmly driving away from the scene, I see their mouths open in this oh my god screaming expression. And one of them drops to her knees and dramatically throws her head back and implores God to explain why this is happening. And the other one runs to her house with her hands in her hair like she's holding her brain in. We'll come back to all that in a minute. Now it's 15 years ago. Mary is 1.5, walking like a professional toddler, saying dad and oatmeal and puppy. It's beautiful. Her mom, my first wife Kate, has just left permanently. I picked Mary up from daycare and I came home to a stack of paper on the table, a series of notes from Kate. She weighed them down with her house keys and a framed picture of the 3 of us that used to hang near the front door. The first note began, Jan, I know you need to control everything. This should help. I'm leaving. Some of the notes were to me, some to Kate. They were heartfelt and confessional, and artfully written as though abandoning her family weren't some awful, selfish act, but a grand destiny sweeping her away from us. It was clear from the first few notes that she intended to never see either of us again. I skimmed a few more of the letters. She'd apparently been making a little project out of this for weeks, and I found them nonsensical and juvenile, and I set them all on fire in the backyard. Including the ones addressed to Mary. Now, so far, you know Now, so far the things you know about me include I've run over a cat and I've set fire to notes a mother left her daughter. So let's check in here real quick regarding your feelings about me. Keep in mind first that I don't really care. I don't know you, I'm just here describing a few events from my life, and you're going to add details to make my story whatever you need it to be. I can't control that. But at the time, I felt like this. If you ditch out on your family, you don't get to have your cute little poems delivered in your absence. You lose the right to control the story of who you are and why you did what you did. And when I imagine Kate finding peace, knowing her daughter will someday read her letters, I take comfort in how wrong she is. Before Kate left, she, Mary, and I squeezed our life into a one-bedroom apartment in Uptown. I moved Mary and me into this house a year later, and I was happier those first years here than I've ever been, even though Kate had just run off and I wouldn't meet Cheryl for a long time still. But just being there with Mary, raising her in my house, feeling proud about that, I'd never trade it. And being out of the city, the dark and quiet at night were so complete, I couldn't get enough of it. I'd step onto the patio at night after putting Mary to bed, and then I'd walk out into the yard and lie down in the grass on my stomach in the dark. Sometimes I'd even put my face right into the dirt and just squirm around like a really uncoordinated snake. Then one afternoon, everything changed. Mary was 6 now. I'm in the kitchen, it's a weekend, making a salad. It was early November. Mary's playing in her room upstairs with these miniature mer-people toys she was obsessed with. Mer as in mermaid, merman, mer-pets. They all had a bus they rode in that was a whale with wheels on it. Anyway, I'm making a salad or a sandwich, I don't actually remember, and a grape tomato rolls off the cutting board. A grape tomato, if you don't already know, is a tomato known for its grape-like size and shape. So the grape tomato rolls off the cutting board, and as I'm watching, my mind plays through this familiar routine that I don't think is unique to me, and here's that routine, which is a series of emotional reactions I flip through in a fraction of a second. So let me know if this sounds familiar. First, confusion. What is happening? Then realization. A grape tomato is falling. Next, alarm. A grape tomato is falling. Oh no. Panic is next. Do not let the grape tomato fall. This is horrible. Stop this. Physical reaction. I must move my body to catch the grape tomato. And then shame. I am too slow to catch the grape tomato. And this is all my fault. No, I don't think everybody analyzes this like I do, but I assume we all travel through these same patterns when we drop a tomato or spill a coffee or push the wrong button on the remote. Where some of us differ, though, is the next part, which is empathy for the inanimate object. I'm sorry, grape tomato, for letting you down. You thought you were going to be enjoyed in a fresh salad, and now look. I'm so sorry. So I'm having that thought, which is not an atypical thought for me to have, when I noticed the grape tomato was still rolling, like more than it should based on physics. The grape tomato is no doubt acting independently now, which is incredible for a number of reasons. One of which is, for the first time in my life, the human qualities I'm attributing to the inanimate object I'm empathizing with, those qualities now actually seem to exist. So the grape tomato hits the floor, rolls out away from the cupboard. I step toward it, and it rolls faster and in a zigzag pattern like it's trying to lose me. Which is ridiculous. It's not going to happen. I'm huge compared to it, and I know my kitchen better. It rolls across the kitchen to the back door, then starts bumping into the door again and again like it's attempting to open it. It hops up and down a few times. It squeezes itself into a little crack between the door and the door frame, and its skin splits very slightly, and so it stops attempting that maneuver. Basically, though, it's clear the tomato is freaking out. But then I hear a sound behind me, and I look, and Mary's been standing there with a mermaid in her hand, watching the whole thing with the grape tomato. And I just yell at her so loud, "Go to your room right now." And she runs out. She runs out and up the stairs, stomping hard. And I hear her start crying, and it's her scared cry, not her sad cry. And I jump toward the tomato, and I grab it, and I eat it. I just murder it with my teeth. erased this whole wrong event. So I didn't move for a while. I just stood there chewing and thinking. But when I walked up to Mary's room to find out what state she was in, I did this thing, something you can do with a kid only up until they're 5 or 6. I made her believe that what she saw did not actually happen. So she says, "Dad, what was that tomato doing?" And I go, "What do you mean, Mary? Was that tomato alive?" "No, it just dropped on the floor, that was all." "Dad, it was jumping." "That's impossible, Mary. It just bounced when it fell off the counter." So I saw this as I lied and I protected her. And of course, as her dad, I wanted her to be creative, imaginative, to feel the world is filled with wonder. But there's no way she's ever focusing on math homework again in a world where vegetables become aware and independently mobile. I didn't want to be responsible for a reality that wonderful and distracting, so I controlled the message for her. Now, many years later, the blood cleaned from the garage floor and the cat leg dislodged from my car and disposed of, Mary's graduation party begins. Cheryl steadies herself against a tree, gossiping with parents of Mary's friends. Mary is in another corner of the yard laughing and talking with all these kids from her class I've watched grow up with her. I'm mingling, host-like, saying nonsense as people arrive, directing them to the table where they can deposit their gifts. And the McDowells appear around the corner of the house and walk toward me carrying an envelope with Mary's name on it. Mark, Janice, and the 2 girls. I look at the girls, try to get a read, but they're playing it very cool. Mark and Janice seem oblivious too. Now, yesterday, after I parked the car in the garage, I right away put on work gloves and grabbed a garbage bag and walked back to take care of the body. It occurred to me that I would have a PR problem in the 4 to 12-year-old demographic, and so I was hoping the McDowell girls would be outside so I could do damage control, give them my perspective on the events. But they weren't outside anymore, so I glanced up at the house, checked the windows to see if they're peeking through the blinds from the bedrooms, watching me out here respectfully scraping up these cat remains. But no one's watching. I'm destined to be the guy who drives over small animals without slowing down. That's going to be the story on me. I'm evil. It's locked in. Or is it? These McDowell girls, as repellent as they are in many ways with their matching outfits and big cartoon eyes and voices, they've always looked up to Mary. And now Mary greets the McDowells and gives the girls hugs, and they're so excited to see her and to receive her attention. And so I'm going to fix it right here in front of Mary and in front of Mark and Janice McDowell. I'm going to make it right. "Girls," I say, and I do that thing where I get down on a knee in front of them and look them in the eye. "Girls, I'm sorry about what happened to your cat yesterday. It was a terrible accident." Mark and Janice and Mary are quiet, looking at me curiously. The McDowell girls look at me too. And the younger one says, "Thanks, Mr. Anderson, but that wasn't our cat." And the older one, her eyes suddenly wet, says, "We don't even know what you're talking about."